Okay, so I'm doing an update for this, and I thought if you have an opinion about the names of these things, maybe, um, or how they're organized or whatever, give me some feedback on the discussion board FAQ. I'm experimenting with different things. So like here, the alt text is the actual name of the file, and I've been trying to adjust things to the week lesson idea. I kind of like that organization personally. But if you have an opinion, let me know that. Otherwise, I'm going to open these up and we're going to take a look at them. Excel file, Excel file. All right, well that updates. Go back to the PDF. All right, so what we're doing here is we're solving for that arbitrary constant when you took that antiderivative. Let's see, make it even bigger. All right, there we go. So this first example I've broken up into smaller steps that probably you should do in the future. Most of the time, the only thing you see is this question. And it doesn't tell you do this, do this, do this. So you have to recognize from the context of the question that's what you're supposed to do. And as you do more things, the wording gets a little bit confusing. But one of the key features is this line right here. If the internal temperature of the roast is 35 degrees, then so you're given an initial condition. And so it might not sound like that. But that's kind of the clue. You're given, there's another example, you're given a specific input value and a specific output value that go together, a point. That you're not given that really on anything else like that. So you got to recognize, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. All right, so let's just break it down. Antiderivative. So we're given the rate, r prime, and we want to finding the r, so that's the antiderivative. You can see my little notation set up here. We've got e to a power of, so u substitution. We've done that previously. And then I just write it, and then I take the antiderivative. The antiderivative of e to the power is e to the power. And then I substitute the u back in. Notice when we do this, just as a reminder, how the notation changes throughout. That's an important thing that you need to know how to write correctly the mathematics. As soon as you do the antiderivative, this step where my cursor's moving around, the integral symbol and the du no longer there, and the plus k comes into play right then. So, and I occasionally get students, I don't remember if I talked about it in a previous video, that said, well, why? What happened? Why don't we write it again? Well, it's just kind of, the only way I can think of it is when you do 2 plus 3 equals 5, you don't write the plus, do you? So I don't know how to do that. So once you've done the notation, once you've done that operation, you don't write the notation. So you got to know when and where already. Okay, and the next thing would be to solve for that k value. And you can see I set up my equation, and then we're going to just go straight to Excel. And one of the reasons I'm updating this is I used to do this with GoalSeek, but I no longer do it with GoalSeek because it's a little bit easier to not do it with GoalSeek. Okay, so my step 2 is when I'm solving for that k. Step 2, solve for the arbitrary constant. So we've got the input and the output. So I've labeled my headers to help recognize things. In the R, capital R, this is the antiderivative we just took, and I typed it in exactly. I get a lot of students that'll go off to the side and they'll type that in to get a simplified coefficient, but then they don't take into account rounding. So, to me that's just extra work. Just type it in like that and leave it alone. And the output, and then for the k, you can see we're just doing a simple subtraction. It's always going to be, let's look at the handwriting. So we've got this 35 equals, all of this stuff is just a number plus k. So all you're really doing is 35 minus the function that's evaluated at that initial input, the given input, and that's what k equals. And that's all I did in Excel. A lot easier than GoalSeek. So you can see the D3 is the output 35 minus the function evaluated with the given input, and there's our k value. And so then you write that function down, and then we're going to answer the question that it asked. What is the temperature of the roast when it has cooked for 2 hours? Now be careful. You've had a lot of unit changes on your homework. T is the time in minutes. So you have to pay attention to these little things. If you just go down to this last one and put a 2 there, big old red X. And then just in Excel, so I'm going to delete this and show you what I did to get that. So my input is 120, and I'm trying to figure out what that temperature or the output is. So I'm going to take my antiderivative, copy and paste, and then I'm going to go over and add the K cell, just like that. Easy peasy. And there are different ways of doing this. It's up to you, but this is what I came up with just to keep it a little bit straighter like that. And there's the answer you wrote right there with all the units and everything. Boop. Making sure I did it correctly. Okay, let's try the next example. Okay. Solar-powered desk fans. I don't know about you, but my office doesn't have a whole lot of light to power my desk fan. That's probably why they're pretty cheap. Anyways, so the steps aren't written here. A lot of times the only question you'll have is the part B question, and you really need to write all of these things out because, you know, you're not perfect. We all make mistakes, so write all this detail down. Okay, so my antiderivative, no u substitution here. That's just a real simple polynomial. Antiderivative plus k. Step 2, we plug the numbers in, go straight to Excel, exactly the same way. Given input, given output, antiderivative formula there. And then the k cell is the given output minus the antiderivative when the antiderivative is evaluated with that given input. Hit the escape key, and then write that function down, and then evaluate the function. Back to Excel. Again, when you do that evaluate, you're going to take the antiderivative cell, and then you're going to add that K cell to it. Like that. Now you know how to do it. Easy peasy. Done with the video.